Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady. We are in the beginning of March and I've decided that I'm going to do weekly tours on Sunday of my Foodscape, keep them short and quick and concise so that you can really experience how everything evolves over the months of March, April, and May. So I hope you will enjoy this new series, and I'm going to try and figure out how to create a playlist so that in the long run it'll be really easy for you to be able to watch one after another. So our first stop is the north side of my house where I have a whole bunch of camellias. This is Camellia October Affair that has been blooming off and on since October. It's a great variety. And then here is Camellia Japonica Royal Velvet. You can see the buds are just really starting to show color, but they're not open yet. So this will be, hopefully soon. Next to that is Sarcococca. That's been in bloom for several weeks and it smells absolutely divine. And I've been really working on creating a perennial ground cover in this bed because it's difficult to get mulch to. And that is really starting to come together. The one place where I have failed, and I actually have this planted with Tricertis, but the Tricertis is dormant and underground. In the wintertime, you see it's just starting to come back. And in the winter, the chickweed gets in here and really takes over. So I'm noting this so that next year, when the Tricertis goes dormant, I remember to sprinkle like lettuce or kale or some kind of leafy green in here to prevent the chickweed from being able to take over this whole area. We are in full hellebore season here. It's just a small area. This is where I've really concentrated on removing those flowers to prevent excessive seeding. I didn't do that in the initial years and they've just really colonized. So, if you want them to colonize, that's great. That's their tendency. If you don't, the easiest thing to do is just, to pluck those flowers off and then you can use them in floating arrangements. So today I've been working over here in this border, getting it weeded because I have a couple of different spring veggies that I'd like to plant in here. So you can see I've been on my hands and knees pulling out mostly chickweed, lamium, that wild geranium, just kind of getting things cleaned up. It looks a bit like a mess, but it's coming. What I really aim for is ground plane coverage, and when you have the ground covered, you won't get so many weeds. So you can see here where the arugula has self-sown and colonized, I don't have weed issues, but anywhere in between, I have a lot of different weeds coming up, and I need to look up what this one is. I mean, it's a cute little thing, but it's not desirable. I don't want this. Every flower will develop seeds. So, I'm spending some quality time today really getting these beds cleaned up. So these grow bags are about done, these broccolis. I'm gonna replace these with fresh broccoli, and I wanted to show you. I got one Romanesco, one plant. That's generally been the case with me. I've never had great success with this, but I love it, so I keep trying. So I have a lot of space over here on the west side of my greenhouse to get more things seeded and planted. I'm still in the phase of doing cool season vegetables. That's broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, mustard, lettuce, spinach, arugula, things like that. I'm completely gaga over this Salix Mount Aso. It's just the prettiest thing ever. I just did an Instagram post on it today, and I'm not alone. It's been really popular. I think it's just a really beautiful, elegant plant to have in your garden. So there's a fair amount happening out here in the woods, and it's dried out. So nice. It's not dry by any means, but it's not like flowing with water. Here's Crimson Candles. This is, I think, the most extraordinary camellia of all time. It's different. It's not a formal double bloom, but there's so many flowers at once. It's just incredible. Behind that is the Edgeworthia. It's super fragrant. I wish that you could smell it. And I noticed over here, this is a plant that gets ignored because it's really on the very edge, and you see it's got terrible scale infestation. These leaves are covered in scale. I need to pull the oil out and give everything another dose. I want to get up close and personal for you guys on this Edgeworthia. It is just, it's heavenly, you know? There's really no other word to describe this plant. And it's a great cut flower for inside, and I love cutting these flowers to float in my arrangements. So speaking of Edgeworthia, I want to show you the difference between what I call the species Papifera. You know, everything about it is small, including the little blooms. They're cute, but eh. And then right next door, here is Edgeworthia chrysantha. And this is a cultivar called Snow Cream. And it's a really large growing plant. But if you have the choice between, you know, this or this, I kind of think that the choice is pretty obvious. So I've showed you this a lot of times in different videos. This is the giant Edgeworthia that I propagated for an episode of Growing a Greener World. And then I potted it and I left it and it rooted into the ground, and it's like by far the best. But you can see I did some major trimming this week, and I brought those in to use for flower arrangements. That way I can actually walk through my work zone because this is obviously not where I would have planted it, but it loves growing here. It's hands down my happiest, healthiest Edgeworthia, so I'm not going to do anything to change that. And I just, again, I'm so addicted to these flowers. The Arnold Promised Witch Hazel continues to flower and fill the air with great fragrance. And the Pink Panther Prunus Mume looks great, despite the fact that we went down to 25 degrees last night. Now this bed, I did get weeded last week, but it could really use some edging and mulch. That really can't happen until it gets a little drier, but we have a great dry forecast, and actually by Wednesday, we're gonna be in like the 70s and 50s, which is awesome. I made a video last Sunday where I was starting this new bottle wall here, and this is so that I can access this part of the garden, which I've never done anything to. In fact, I've made some lazy compost piles over the years in here, and so I have some work. I'd like to put in a proper path and just be able to develop it more. And I'm gonna have to cut out some trees. So, you know, sometimes I laugh and I say I plant trees on 12-inch centers, but look, that's a red bud here. That's an elm there. I planted those. I planted those as 2 quarts, so they were small, but I know better than to do that, but I still do it. So I'm gonna actually make the hard decision. I'm gonna cut the elm out. I'm also gonna take out that Acer Fabrii. It has like the weird trunk. And hopefully that'll open this space up a little more, so I'll have better success for engaging the ground plane with more plants. My big weedy border continues to basically stick its tongue out at me. I'm gonna get to this week when it's a little warmer to spend some quality time on my hands and knees. But I do have a lot of poppies that are germinating in here, so I'm really excited to see that. So another weed ID. Okay, that's poppy here. There, more poppy. But then, you know, lots of chickweed and lots of this horrible geranium that, you know, it's not hard to pull, but it does have a pretty significant taproot. So, yes, I have more work to do in this border. Speaking of weeds, weeds love to grow right along the bottle edge, and that's for the same reason that plants also love to grow along the bottle edge. It's a heat sink, it's a microclimate, and it's, you know, just a really great environment for plants to grow. And that's why I do these bottle walls. It really helps create about a 3 to 5 degree microclimate because the air in the bottles heats up and that heats the soil. But beware that it also enables non-desirable plants to thrive in addition to desirable plants like that poppy. I think this is the longest the Jasminum nudiflorum has ever bloomed, and I absolutely love it. It's so beautiful. I'm going to remind myself of this this summer when I noticed that it's suckering, terribly far away, that it is a good plant to grow. So this is what I have today to plant for my foodscaping video. I've got some purple cabbage, I've got some cauliflower, and some broccoli that I've gotten from different local garden centers. So since I've been talking about brassica plants, I need to warn you that cabbage worms are out in full effect. You see, here's one right here, and it's eating this leaf, and you can barely see it because it's the same color. So I treat all of my brassicas with BT, and I'm going to get started this afternoon. The newly planted space looks good. I have been watering this by hand just briefly about every other day because this part doesn't usually get rained on because the house blocks the rain. And I'm just saying this as a reminder to myself that I need to hit all of the broccoli, cabbage, cauliflowers that I have scattered throughout the yard with BT today so that I will avoid the damage. Now I see something that looks bad. Voles! Look at that. They ate all my Iphian roots. And you wouldn't think they would do that because the Iphian is kind of stinky. Well, that's very disappointing. So that's what vole damage looks like, you guys. You see where the plant just is literally nibbled from the base. Yeah, happens to the best of us. Well, you guys, it's the first time this year that I've actually sat in this hammock, and I'm really only doing it for your benefit. Just wanted to give you the view of what you look up at when you sit here on a brisk March day in central North Carolina, Zone 7. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this tour, and I look forward to doing these weekly to show you just how quickly everything changes. And I wish you all the best this week. Have a good one.